The drama surrounding this fight didn't start with the opening bell. It began weeks earlier, in interviews filled with confidence that bordered on arrogance, when Jason Maloney spoke as if Naoya Inoue was just another name on a growing resume. He talked about catching him, about not letting him off the hook once he had him where he wanted him. He talked about shocking the world, about exposing a man the boxing world already knew as something far more dangerous than an ordinary champion. What Maloney failed to understand was that confidence against Naoya Inoue isn't bravery. It's an invitation. And once that invitation is accepted, there is no polite way for the monster to decline. Naoya Inoue didn't arrive at that night as a mystery. He arrived with a reputation carved out of 19 undefeated fights, 16 of them ending before the final bell. He had already flattened contenders who believed hype and disrespect could substitute preparation. Fighters who stood in front of him learned the hard way that Inoue doesn't simply punch holes in guards, he dismantles rhythm, confidence, and will. Every opponent who underestimated him became another cautionary tale, another reminder that talent alone doesn't survive when it meets precision mixed with cruelty. Maloney, for all his skill and grit, walked into that ring carrying the same dangerous belief others had carried before him, that maybe this time would be different. From the opening moments, the contrast between belief and reality began to form. Both men came out composed, their guards high, their feet light. There was no reckless charge, no wild exchange, just two professionals testing range and reactions. Maloney tried to keep distance, flicking out jabs, moving laterally, hoping to collect information before committing. Inoue, on the other hand, stalked. He didn't rush, but he never stopped advancing. Each step forward was deliberate, each jab sharp and probing, not meant to score points but to read responses. Every time Maloney backed up, Inoue closed the gap with ease, cutting off angles before escape could even be considered. It was clear early that Inoue had no intention of allowing this fight to settle into a cautious chess match. He applied pressure in layers, forcing Maloney to think constantly, to react to feints, to defend against shots that hadn't even been thrown yet. When Inoue let his hands go, the speed was jarring. Uppercuts slipped through narrow openings, hooks landed just as Maloney tried to reset his stance. Even when Maloney absorbed shots cleanly, there was no relief, because Inoue never lingered. He struck and moved, struck and adjusted, always staying one step ahead. Maloney attempted to respond with discipline, maintaining distance and avoiding reckless exchanges. But restraint can become fear when it lingers too long. As Inoue continued to walk him down, Maloney's offense began to look hesitant, his punches thrown more out of obligation than conviction. When he resorted to clinching and sneaky shots inside, the mood shifted. Those moments didn't slow Inoue down. They angered him. You could see it in his eyes, the calm sharpening into something colder. The monster doesn't respond well to desperation tactics, and when Maloney crossed that line, the consequences followed immediately. By the end of the first round, there was no confusion about who controlled the ring. Inoue had landed the cleaner shots, dictated the pace, and forced Maloney into constant adjustment. It felt less like a competitive opening and more like a warning. Inoue wasn't even fully unleashed yet. He was warming up, calibrating, growing more aggressive with every exchange. The longer the round went on, the clearer it became that Maloney wasn't fighting the fight he had envisioned. He was reacting, not leading, surviving moments rather than building momentum. The second round briefly teased a different narrative. Maloney came out with renewed aggression, landing a few decent shots and stepping forward with confidence that suggested he believed he had found something. For a fleeting 10 seconds, it looked as though he might impose himself physically. But that illusion shattered almost instantly. Inoue responded with terrifying speed, slipping inside and unleashing combinations that scrambled Maloney's senses. His footwork closed the ring in an instant, leaving Maloney nowhere to retreat. The monster attacked the face relentlessly, mixing head and body shots with surgical precision. Maloney tried to escape, circling away, backing up, searching for space. There was none. Inoue was everywhere, his presence suffocating. Each exchange chipped away at Maloney's resolve, and by the time the round progressed, it was clear the confidence he'd brought into the ring was already eroding. By the third round, Maloney was breathing hard, his movements less fluid, his reactions slower. The realization had set in. This wasn't just a fight. This was survival. Inoue began to control the rhythm completely, changing tempo at will. He would slow the pace just enough to lull Maloney into false security, then explode with combinations that snapped heads back and forced desperate clinches. A right uppercut nearly shattered Maloney's jaw, leaving him blinking, trying to understand how he'd been hit through his guard. Inoue dropped his hands at times, chin exposed, almost taunting him, daring Maloney to throw something meaningful. But Maloney couldn't pull the trigger. Fear had replaced instinct. The man who promised to shock the world now looked trapped inside his own hesitation. When Maloney did try to respond, the counters came back harder. An uppercut nearly sent him into another dimension, his legs wobbling as he tried to regain balance. Inoue smelled it. He pressed harder, no longer hiding his intentions. By the fourth round, Maloney wasn't fighting to win. He was fighting to last. Inoue, tired of the resistance that wasn't truly resistance at all, began throwing with ferocity. The punches came heavier now, driven by impatience as much as precision. Then came a moment that briefly reignited Maloney's hope. After absorbing punishment for rounds, he finally landed a clean combination, shots that would have dropped many fighters. For a second, the crowd stirred. Perhaps this was the opening. Perhaps the monster could be hurt. But Inoue barely flinched. He absorbed the punches with composure that bordered on disdain, his eyes never leaving Maloney. The effort drained Maloney far more than it troubled Inoue, and when the monster responded, it was with cold efficiency. He slipped under desperate swings, countering with shots that landed flush and punished every mistake. Despite everything, Maloney managed what felt like his first real round. That small success planted a dangerous seed. Confidence returned, fragile and misguided. He began to believe again, to think the impossible might be within reach. That belief would become his undoing. At the start of the fifth round, Maloney stunned Inoue with a sharp 1-2 that snapped his head back. It was the cleanest moment he'd had all night, and for an instant, it felt like the fight might turn. But Naoya Inoue doesn't panic. He recalibrates. Almost immediately, he recovered